Vice President Harris and I ran for office, and I realize we have fundamental disagreements on this, but ran for office with a new economic vision for America. Invest in America, educate Americans, grow the workforce, build the economy from the bottom up and the middle out, not from the top down.
And all of this is to say, unlike Donald Trump, I will always put the middle class and working families first. Because you see, Coach Walz and I know the middle class built the United States of America. And when the middle class is strong, America is strong. We believe in a future where we lower the cost of living for America's families, so they have a chance not just to get by, but to get ahead. Because look, while our economy is doing well by many measures, prices for everyday things like groceries are still too high. You know it and I know it. When I was Attorney General, I went after price-fixing schemes. And when I am president, it will be my day one priority to fight to bring down prices, to take on the big corporations that engage in illegal price gouging, take on corporate landlords that unfairly raise rents on working families, to take on big pharma and cap the cost of prescription drugs for all Americans. That is the work we will do together.
I don't think the middle class exists anymore. Back in 1950, the median income was $3,300 per year. It sounds really low until you realize that the median home price back then was about $7,500. So it would take you 2 years of your wages to buy a home. These days, the median income is $70,000 and the median house is $430,000. That's like 6.5 years of wages. Up. That is messed up. And the worst thing is that to be middle class in America these days, you need to make about $175,000 per year. So I don't think the middle class exists anymore. I think it's slowly becoming you either have money or you don't.
The middle class was once a symbol of the American dream, representing financial stability and endless opportunities. But today, it seems to be a thing of the past.
The middle class is no longer the majority in America.
What has happened to the American middle class, those people whose drive and optimism have lifted the nation out of financial trouble into triumph time and time again?
From Boston to Goldsboro, North Carolina, to Midland, Texas to Seattle, there are fewer adults living in middle-class households.
And the question is, can the middle class rally once more to pull America ahead?
Vice President Kamala Harris is now slowly trying to get away from the idea of Bidenomics. Now, it's probably because she finally understands that the plan just straight up sucks. Why else would she say that groceries are still too high, right? I mean, she tries to sell the idea that the economy is doing well, but then she says that there's a lot of work that needs to be done. She's kind of like stuck between a rock and a hard place because she's basically been the vice president for 4 years, and all they can show for it is an economy that's destroying the middle class, the working class. They wanted us to believe that the middle class was their priority, but they became more of the victim, really. The problem now is that she's been running for president, and she wants us to believe that for her to do something about these prices, she has to be put in as the commander-in-chief. Which begs the question, what the heck have you been doing for the last 4 years?
Most people don't know the ins and outs of an election and sort of, what's going on behind the scenes, but they know how much ground beef costs them, eggs cost them, bread costs, and they are sick of it. Kamala Harris is distancing herself from all of it. You say that the vice president owns President Biden's economy, and she'll keep it going. Explain.
Well, as we saw from the debate, President Biden has not been running things, for the past, who knows whether it's months or years. So it could only have been the vice president who was in charge. And let's go back. The Vice President Harris was the deciding vote for the American Rescue Plan and the Inflation Reduction Act.
Yes, that's right.
So she owns those. They would not have passed. It was 50-50. She broke the tie.
Yes, she did.
Those caused the great inflation. She was the border czar that immigration. So, I've talked about interest rates, inflation, and immigration are the things killing working class America. Tell me which one of those she doesn't own.
So that was Scott Bessent, who is the Key Square Capital Management CEO and former Soros Fund Management CIO. So he thinks that the Biden presidency was basically the Kamala Harris presidency because Joe Biden hasn't been in mental shape for some time now, which means that the economy that we have right now is owned by Kamala Harris. This is the future for America if she's voted in as the president. Now, just take the Inflation Reduction Act. It was named in such a sleazy way to try and convince us that inflation was going to be going down. But they printed so much money and they contributed to inflation where businesses and households went belly up. And even with this blatant disrespect for the American people, they still want to sell Harris as the one that can solve all these problems that they created.
An exclusive new WCBB UMass Amherst poll shows Vice President Kamala Harris appears to be making headway with voters.
The new poll surveyed 1,000 people nationwide. 46% said they approved of the job Harris is doing. That's higher than her boss, who had a 41% approval rating. 47% disapprove of Harris's job performance. That's compared to 51% a year ago. Harris gets high marks when it comes to whether she's a stronger candidate than President Biden. 53% said she's a better pick, compared to 24% who disagreed that she is stronger than Mr. Biden.
When it comes to how voters would describe the vice president in one word, it's a mixed bag, as you can see. The word strong is the biggest vote getter, but it's competing with weak. Inexperienced competing with intelligent, showing a mix of options there.
Now, what's really surprising here, guys, is that nothing has changed since her ratings were low. Literally nothing has changed. It's not like they've solved any of our problems. She became the presidential nominee for the Democratic Party, and by some sort of a miracle, people like her now. Or at least they're trying to sell us the fact that people like her now. That just doesn't make sense. And here's something else that doesn't make sense. If you open up the Kamala Harris website, the first thing you're going to see are different amounts. Now, it ranges anywhere from $25 all the way up to $1,000. These are the suggested donation amounts that you can give to her campaign. That's the very first thing you see. You can check it out for yourself if you want to. Digging deeper into the website, and you won't even notice that they're running for this country in particular. There's no American flag on the website. You have to click a few times to even get far enough to see one. Compared to Donald Trump, where you can see our flag right at the first page. And yes, there is a link to where you can contribute or donate, but it doesn't push that in your face right at the get-go. And here's the biggest difference, guys. Donald Trump and Vance's website have a link to their platform. This is where you'll see Donald Trump's core promises to the American people. This is not available on Harris's website. Even today, we're not even sure what she's gonna do if she's voted in. Her promises have been very vague. That's scary. Now, speaking of which, I did a previous video where I promise it will surprise you. Rumors are now swirling around that Kamala Harris and her husband have some issues to take care of. Those along the lines of infidelity. Now, I know it sounds a little bit crazy, so definitely make sure to go ahead and check that video out. But as always, thanks so much for hitting the like button. Thank you for subscribing and sharing this video. I'll see you on the next one.